Hey everyone, Davey here, back again to review The Walking Dead. And my god, this was one hell of an episode. And let me tell you, Walking Dead is turning into Game of Thrones with the shock value because I'm still reeling. I'm not kidding. This episode kind of had a physical effect on me. But more of that in a little bit. This episode is entitled Spend. And basically, the majority of the episode is dealing with our characters trying to settle in with their new jobs in Alexandria. You see that shot of Daryl and Aaron taking off to recruit more people, and God knows who they're going to come back with. And then you got other characters also settling in. But before I get to them, okay, I'm just going to get the elephant in the room out of the way. And that is this entire mission with Glenn and the rest of those teenagers, essentially, except for Eugene, who go into this facility in order to get these like routers. They look like routers, and supposedly these routers are gonna help power up this grid within Alexandria that will bring back the electricity. And when they're going in, it looks like everything's going fine. But being that it's The Walking Dead, when everything's going just swell, things need to happen. Except in this episode, shit just hit the highest fan ever because, man, this entire mission, or at least the latter half, was just incredibly intense. There were so many scenes that were done really well, and so many characters put at the utmost risk, and therefore also killing off a couple of characters. That killing off Aiden right there, just when when the other guys thought that he was alive, was kind of brutal. I was like, wow, wow! In just the second episode, you're already gonna get rid of this character. I mean, God knows what they're gonna have to tell his grandmother when they get back to Alexandria. But okay, and man, that was gory. But the episode just had to top itself off because later on, in a rather incredibly intense scene. I mean, this scene was really well made, really well filmed, in the revolving door outside of that complex between Glenn, Noah, and that other guy whose name escapes me, but he was the fight or flight type of dude. And because of that, it is in this scene that we bid farewell to Noah, which apparently a lot of people didn't really care about. I read some comments online and a couple of reviews saying that, you know, they really don't really, care for this character all that much. And I was in the minority who did. I actually liked his character. I was hoping for bigger things with him, especially in that scene at the beginning of this one where you see him talking to Aiden's grandfather and hoping to develop an architect type of career or a type of job to pull his own weight within Alexandria and hopefully build those walls. And I guess that should have been the red flag of his character dying, is that, hey, I hope that when I'm your age, I'm going to be able to fix these walls. But at the same time, I felt like I couldn't have known. So to see him go out just right there and then, I legitimately felt depressed because I like this character. And to see him go in what I think is the goriest death on The Walking Dead in a really long time. If it's not ever, then it's been a humongous, it's been a large amount of time since we've seen a really gory death like this, and especially for one of the main characters within Rick's group. You know, not a character that you just met, but one that has been in the game for a while. I mean, sure, he was introduced in this season, but I feel like I've known him a decent amount of time. Not as the same as Glenn or other characters that, should they die, it would pack a humongous punch. But I still felt something, both emotionally and physically, because like I said, that effect was done so well that I felt a little nauseous. I've seen gory movies and stuff before, but because I like this character, seeing him go, it hit me. And I also commend the special effects artist because that death was delivered rather well and using practical effects, because it wasn't obvious. It wasn't like total, oh, that looked totally fake. But because I'm an avid moviegoer and I look for things and I'm very analytical, I personally was able to tell that was a prosthetic leg, but it harkened back to the days of like the 80s, like David Cronenberg, whenever he would do practical effects that were really gory and bloody, but because it was a practical effect, it felt real. I commend the artist behind Noah's death because okay, it made me feel a little bit sick, and I feel like if you guys can do that to me, you did a damn well job. It's also in this mission that Eugene actually has his little moment to shine, because at the beginning of this episode, him coming forward saying, yes, I'm a coward, y'all should know that, y'all, I'm talking like he does, it kind of put me a little bit at odds with the character, because I'm like, okay, I give you some props for, confessing that you're a coward, but that practically means that you're not meant for this world. And there's a moment where I feel like Tara even wanted to say that, but she just walked away. But I'm glad he did have his moment later on in the episode to kind of redeem himself and make him a more acceptable character. Now, interspliced with this mission are some of our other characters, like I said, settling in within Alexandria, finding their own place. Especially Abraham. We haven't seen what he's been up to, so to see what job he has been given and also dealing with that job was kind of cool. You can kind of see his those moments where he's almost having like PTSD because he's been in the action so much that to settle into a place like Alexandria, it harkens back to soldiers coming back from a war, and when they try to adjust to normal life, they're like, I don't know if I can do this. But before that gets to him, he does have his moment of acceptance where those walkers come in and terrorize those workers. And this actually puts him in a higher position to the point where even the guy in charge goes back to Deanna and says, you know what, this guy's way better than me, let's put him in charge. And this it makes Deanna just a little skeptical about what's happening because that's already the third person that is being put in a position of authority. And in the scene, we also get to see what role Maggie has, being that kind of like that advisor type of role to Deanna, telling her what is right and what is wrong and what kind of course of action she suggests she should take. And I like that. I like seeing the scenes of everybody coming together. We also have some more material with Carol and that little boy Sam, and I was expecting more scenes like the one we had in last week's episode that I really loved, but it was here where I started to see what other people were coming from, because I've heard some people say that they didn't like Carol that much in last week's episode because of the way she talked to that little boy. But I'm like, you know what? She did what she needed to, and I probably would have done the same in that situation. In this episode, however, she started off being a little too mean, a little too rude to that little boy. It being that he was coming back, even after that scene, he came back. And him coming back and still wanting to learn how to make those cookies with Carol was enough for me to go, okay, you know what, that kid Sam, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. Plus, he's not telling anybody, so I think it could be a little easier on him, Carol. But Carol, I'll admit, she was being just a tiny bit bitchy at the beginning, and I was like, Carol, please don't make me agree with those other people that weren't liking you in last week's episode. But as the scene went on and as things progressed with Sam wanting to talk to Carol, even though he says we don't have to be friends, that kind of touched Carol in a way where she's like, okay, fine, I'll tell you about cooking and about making these cookies. And it is here where Carol, with the dialogue she exchanges with Sam, makes the stunning revelation that wasn't really that stunning at all. God, I forgot her name. Jessie, the blonde girl that Rick is, having a thing with. Well, not really having a thing, but he's eyeing. It turns out that the husband, in a shocking turn of events, is an asshole and is hitting her and is a drunken bastard. Something that I was able to tell from a mile away. But anyways, at the end of this episode, she suggests to Rick that he has to die, and I'm hoping that The Walking Dead, with this particular scene, does not become a show about extremes. We already had some technical extremes earlier in the episode with two people being shown ripped apart in the most goriest fashion. So now for Carol to take that extreme of saying, hey, you have to kill this guy, I really hope in the next episode we have Rick going up to Carol and saying, or we could do something else. Because for some reason, that didn't sit well with me, and I'm hoping Carol brings an argument to the table about why it is that Rick should kill this guy, because for the time being, personally, I don't see it. Or remember that character? He was like a priest or something. His name was Gabriel. Yeah, he finally shows up in this episode. Everybody was wondering, where's the priest? Where's the father? And we finally got him in this episode, and we finally find out what he's been doing this whole time. He's been concocting a plan to betray Rick and the rest of the group. It is in this episode where I think I finally had it with this character. What is going on with him? Now, like I said, I haven't read the comics that so far this season has been based on, so I don't actually know what's going on with this character. And if you do, please don't post it in the comments. Even though this is a spoiler-filled review, still don't do that. But anyways, I think I have had it with this character because at the beginning you see more evidence of him moping around saying, "Oh my God, I think I've lost my faith," by ripping out those Bible sheets, and I'm like, okay, fine, they're going with a personal struggle type of storyline with this character. But then at the end of this episode, he comes into Deanna's house and tells her that Rick and the rest of them cannot be trusted, and I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You better have something up your sleeve to benefit Rick and his group in some way, because right now I'm hoping you suffer the same fate that Noah does, because you know up until this point you've been getting people in trouble, you've been putting them in danger, and now you are purposely sabotaging them. Now, the one interesting thing about this particular subplot in this episode is the fact that Maggie listened in on this, and she is the only one besides Deanna and Gabriel to know about Gabriel's betrayal ultimately, and I'm hoping that leads to some kind of resolution with this subplot in which he gets his comeuppance, because right now, not that huge of a fan of the character. So this episode definitely showed that The Walking Dead can still have teeth. It can still take certain characters and make them expendable when you least expect it, and that's cool. But let's just hope that, being that they killed off two particular characters that I was not expecting to get killed off within a matter of minutes, I'm hoping this doesn't become a pattern for The Walking Dead to play catch up with a show like Game of Thrones, where even people are being scared with that show. I don't watch it, but I've heard some people say that they hope that Game of Thrones doesn't just go for the shock value by just killing off characters one after another, just to say, "Oh my God, look who we killed now," instead of actually having it serve the plot. And I'm hoping The Walking Dead doesn't do that too. Now, that's not an exact complaint about this episode, because again, it's just a concern. It's just a small little worry. But let's just hope they don't go down that route. If there was something that I didn't like about this episode, is that because we cut back to so many people dealing with the things that they're dealing with in this episode, whether it be inside or outside of Alexandria, it became, I don't want to say a little bit unfocused, but just a tad bit disjointed, to where I feel like a couple of these subplots, like for example the Abraham one, as much as I liked it, maybe it could have been saved for the next episode. But being that we only got 3 episodes left, maybe they had to fit it in here somehow, because they have an idea of where to take the rest of the season in the preceding episodes. And my God, what was up with that song in the van, the dubstep song? If that's the music we're going to be listening to in the apocalypse, then go zombies, because, oh my God. And not only do I not like that type of music, but it felt kind of shoehorned in. It felt like promotion for whoever created that song or was in charge of that song. It felt like they paid this handsome amount of money just to have that song being shoehorned into the van, just so that that artist can be like, "Look, my song was on The Walking Dead, download it now." Not exactly one of my favorites, but definitely a very bold episode from The Walking Dead. So for that, I give Spend a solid 8 out of 10. So let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of The Walking Dead. Are you guys going to miss Noah? I kind of will, but I feel like by the end of the season, I would have moved on by then. But anyways, what did you guys think of the episode? What do you think is going to happen when the group comes back to Alexandria, with Tara being in what seems to be a very critical condition, and being that we lost 2 characters? What do you think is going to be the reaction by the rest of the group? And where do you think things are going to happen in Alexandria by the season's end? So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.